The Rule of Jenny Penn, directed by James Ashcroft. They also directed Coming Home in the Dark, which you may not have heard about, but it's a nasty little thriller horror movie from about 5 to 6 years ago. And it has a very memorable, those movies where people are out in the woods or out in nature and then they get someone, encounters them and it becomes immediately dangerous. Deliverance would be one that comes immediately to mind. But there's been versions of this before. Wolf Creek would be another one. This is kind of one of those where it's a family, and I think I want to say it's in New Zealand because this movie it takes place in New Zealand as well. The Rule of Jenny Penn, that is. So I'm thinking that Coming Home in the Dark is one of those movies that was in New Zealand, but a family gets two strangers kind of approach them, and it becomes a harrowing slash disturbing, not a home invasion per se because they're out in nature, but it's kind of that feel. Pretty effective little thriller. So what is the Rule of Jenny Penn? Well, first of all, out of the gate, two great actors getting to just chew the scenery as kind of co-leads is not something you see much these days. This is a movie, if made in the late 50s, early 60s, would have a Betty Davis and Joan Crawford in it, just to kind of give you a tone. But instead, we get a John Lithgow and Geoffrey Rush. So, pretty good combo, you might say, right? John Lithgow is Dave and Stefan is Geoffrey Rush. At the beginning of the movie, Geoffrey Rush, we see, is a judge, and he seems to be a pretty stern, no nonsense, putting down the rule of law kind of judge. He's in court, he's giving a ruling, and you see he's having a little bit of he's kind of having some mental lapses, like in the middle of giving his decision, and to the point that he collapses, and you find out he's had a stroke. So Geoffrey Rush's character, pretty much you smash cut, and he wakes up, and he's in an old folks' home, there to recover, to hopefully get his mobility back, because his right side's kind of messed up. He doesn't have great mobility anymore, but his mentality, his mental factors are very sharp. He's right there. He's as caustic and cynical as always, and analytical, and of course, hating the fact that he's in this old folks' home where he's looking around at everybody as if they're kind of like addled and almost looking down at them, like not really worthy of him. That's kind of his attitude. So he's not going to make the most friends right out of the gate, as you might think. And while he's there, he's looking around the room. I forget, he might be sitting at a table with someone else. And at the far end of the room, you see various people, and someone mentions something like, yeah, some people get here and they just lose it. Some people get here and they phase out. Some people get here and they regress to their childhood. Two or three of these older people sitting against the wall with like dolls and stuff. And one of them is John Lithgow. And he's got like a baby doll on his hand. Now, when I say on his hand, if you imagine a baby doll with the bottom half gone, so that you can put the top half of the doll, the torso and the arms and the head kind of on your hand like a puppet, but it doesn't like have moving mouth or anything. It's just a baby doll that you're using kind of like a puppet. That's essentially what he has on his hand all the time. And he'll talk with it sometimes, and sometimes he'll just talk with his voice. Now you're thinking to yourself, if you look at the poster of this movie and you just hear that basic setup that I gave you, you're like, oh, is this doll possessed? Is this an evil doll movie? We just had an evil monkey movie. Now we have an evil doll movie. No, this is not an evil doll movie. I'm trying to think about this. There's nothing supernatural about this movie whatsoever. It isn't really even a horror movie. I think there are going to be a lot of people that go into it thinking that and might be disappointed by it. So I'm going to tell you, for me, the best approach to this movie, I think, is to think of it like a prison movie. Think of the classic prison movie where you have a new prisoner convicted, gets sent to the high security prison, right? And he's the new guy in town. And when he gets there, pretty quickly, he's trying to get the lay of the land. He's trying to figure out how to survive in this hellish situation because this old folks' home is kind of analogous to hell, apparently, because they definitely make it look terrible. And you're in this prison, and when you're there, you find out who's the head dude, who's the guy that you have to watch out for, and you're going to either have to battle for supremacy or you're going to be under that person's gaze and you have to submit to them. And if you don't, you're in for it. And that is kind of how this movie operates because John Lithgow's character, with his puppet, quote, Jenny Penn, he terrorizes everybody and the people there are in cowering fear of him. And he plays one of the best vile villains I've seen in quite a while. A vile villain, is that a, that's probably the same thing. One of the best ones I've seen in quite a while. And their battle, literal battle of, I guess, in every way, of wills and of just physically, is is really what the movie's all about. And your enjoyment is gonna rise or fall depending on how much you enjoy that battle. I will say the denouement, the way this concludes, is a little bit anticlimactic, but considering who they are and their situation, it is appropriate. It's just like you kind of feel like you want this big giant one-on-one duel or something, and it doesn't kind of go down quite that way. But the battle to get there is to me, it's worth the journey. I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie. It's not like the most quote fun movie. It's not the most thrilling movie. Like I said, it's more of like a character battle. So in that aspect, it's really really good. But I'll probably go 4 stars because I can imagine a version of this. It's much more like crowd pleasing and quote fun and thrilling and more enjoyable to go back to. But as an experience, I still think it's worth it. And that's my 4 star rating for The Rule of Jenny Pin.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.